This is a VEX 269 motor. It's one of the 2-wire motors. People don't really use this as much anymore in favor of the 393 motors. We have on the outside, before we even take it apart, we can see that we have the connector here, and this is a ferrite choke right here. This helps prevent electromagnetic noise that's generated by the motor from traveling back down the wire. It does this by wrapping the wires around, in which we have some current that's traveling that way, some current that's traveling that way, and that cancels out some of the electromagnetic noise. It's basically an inductor. Then on this side we have the actual motor. We can open it up in 2 different places. When you're trying to change out the gears, you would start at the top, so let's just start there. We can just take the top right off and pulls out a axle of sorts. And so inside we can see some like a little board for the motor to attach to, as well as some electrical components, and then also this larger gear assembly with a slot for a VEX axle to fit in. This is where your driven element actually attaches. So we can pull that out. There is a little bearing here that this rests in, I presume for sake of lubrication and reducing friction. Okay, well that's the top part. Now we get to look at the bottom part. And now that we have the screws out on the back, we can take this back casing off, and this piece immediately pops out. Yeah, and so what we can see here is actually, I'll just rest this here for now. We can see the other gear assembly on the other side. Now the reason this piece falls out is because this axle here actually is what holds it in place. So let me just put that back temporarily. We can look inside. And so this is what the gear assembly looks like. We can see this is the pinion that comes off of the motor itself, and it goes through several reductions, finally connecting to the one gear that comes up through the top, and then that would connect to the socket for the actual VEX axles. So let's just take these gears out. And then we can push this one through. This is the piece that oftentimes breaks when people break the internal gearing of the 269 motor. At least from what I've seen, it's usually this one. I haven't seen it as much in the other lower assemblies. Okay, well, now we have this motor assembly, the actual motor still connected. So let's just pull back this little rubber piece, and we will unscrew these 2 screws. Okay, now that that's done, we can just push this out. We can actually see the motor itself. And so here we can see the motor casing, or the motor casing here, and the actual motor with the pinion attached. There's a resistor here. This is a, if I'm reading this right, it's a 22 ohm resistor with a 5% tolerance. The red bands are 2s. We have a multiplier of 1, so 22 ohm. And there's also a PTC right here. This is the troublesome part that everyone despises during the finals matches, because this it's a thermocoupler, and when it heats up, it increases in resistance and prohibits the motor from operating. And so this is a safety feature to prevent the motor from overheating, or this is to prevent the motor from overheating. And so that's really all of the components of the VEX 269 motor. And I think that's kind of helpful to know, like, what's on the inside. It's not just some magical reason that when the motor is used a whole lot, it suddenly breaks. No, it's just this piece here. Its functionality as a PTC is, as more and more current flows through it, it'll start to heat up. When it heats up enough, it will kind of, almost as if it's tripping a circuit breaker, you can think of it that way, until the element cools back down. And that's why once it trips, it takes a little bit less each time to trip again, because you actually have a physical component that's heating up. And so we can put that back together. I don't think I'm going to go and do it all on camera, but that's really all there is inside of a VEX 269 motor. I hope that's been somewhat informative.